The Niners and the Seahawks rekindled their illustrious, long-standing rivalry. And even though the Seahawks were kind of winning this game for what felt like the entire 60 minutes, the San Francisco 49ers ended up pulling out the win at the end and taking the first game in this division. And there's a few things to talk about with this game. The first, I think, with Seattle is that defensively, they look like they are back to being one of the best in the NFL. Leonard Williams, it felt like play after play after play, he was either swallowing up Christian McCaffrey in the backfield and driving back the 49ers offensive lineman, or there was a play from Ernest Jones who had an interception off of Brock Purdy. He had many plays in the backfield as well. You look at guys like Julian Love, you look at guys like Josh Jobe. It felt like there were plays made by guys at every single level of the defense, which again, it's what if you're a Seahawks fan or if you're a fan of the NFL, this is what you're used to seeing from the Seahawks. And another thing that it feels like you're used to seeing with the Seahawks is poor offense. I think the games that Seattle got out of Zach Charbonnet and out of Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think they both had really good games. Especially from Zach Charbonnet's case, he kind of did it while Kenneth Walker was really limited. 13 total touches for 24 total yards. And especially in that first half, Kenneth Walker really did nothing. And especially in the passing game for Jackson Smith and Jigba, Sam Darnold had 150 total passing yards. JSN had 124 of those. And so you take away what JSN and Charbonnet do for this offense, and there was zero done offensively for Seattle. The complete opposite, I think, can be said about San Francisco's offense. Ricky Pearsall goes for over 100 yards. Christian McCaffrey has about 70 yards rushing and over 70 yards receiving on 31 total touches. Early in the game, the Niners got George Kittle involved, but he had some sort of hamstring issue that took him out before I think the first quarter even ended. Jawan Jennings had a few catches, but he was out after about halfway through the third quarter. And that's why we saw towards the end of the game, there was a reliance on guys like Kyle Juszczyk, Jake Tonjes, who caught the game-winning touchdown, Luke Farrell, who had a big first down catch on fourth down. There was a reliance on these guys like Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey that I already mentioned. But once Kittle and Jawan Jennings went down, those other guys that I mentioned, those were the ones that were relied on to step up and make this a winning performance. But it should not be lost that the reason the Niners won this game was because of their defense. While they only had one sack, that one sack was at the most crucial point in the game. The final play of Seattle offense was Nick Bosa getting a strip sack. Even though he didn't really hit Sam Darnold, he more or less drove Abe Lucas into Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold lost the ball in his windup trying to throw it. But Nick Bosa, he basically forced the fumble, got the recovery, and ended the game. And with the other guys on this team, I mean, Marquise Siegel in his rookie debut had a fumble recovery. He had a lot of tackles. He was in on a lot of coverage snaps against some of these guys. Fred Warner was his usual self. D. Winters had a lot of really, really, really good plays for San Francisco. And so you look at it as a whole for San Francisco, I think what really held them back was that once they got to, especially it seemed like in the red zone or in Seattle territory in general, San Francisco, from Kyle Shanahan's play calling perspective, to me, it felt like they got conservative. I wouldn't say that they took their foot off the gas or anything like that. I think they just didn't really want to show a lot in this first game, especially against a divisional opponent that, look, they have a really good defense. Sometimes, even if you show something that you think is a really good play against a team like this, it might not work. And you don't want that to be shown on film the first time you try running it. And I think San Francisco, even though they win this game, there's a chance if they play teams later in the season that have a better offense, that have a better offensive line, they might not be lucky enough to get away with the conservative play calling that they had, especially if Brock Purdy has 2 interceptions. And both of those interceptions that Brock Purdy threw, I mean, the first one, if you were watching the game, I think Greg Olsen did a really good job of explaining. Christian McCaffrey was trying to block a blitzing safety, and because of that, he gets taken out as the check down route. Ernest Jones, who gets the interception, doesn't have to worry about that route from Christian McCaffrey for the check down route, and he can drop back and pick off that pass that I believe was intended for either Jawan Jennings or Ricky Pearsall. But the second interception that Brock Purdy threw to Ricky Pearsall, it was, I mean, by the time the ball was in the area where Ricky Pearsall was, it was like it was quadruple coverage. I mean, there were 4 Seahawks surrounding Ricky Pearsall, and if it wasn't an interception, it was going to be a surprise. For San Francisco, they go to New Orleans next. They have a game against the Saints, and I think the Saints at this point, I mean, they lost against Arizona today by 7 points. I think New Orleans is a much worse defense than Seattle. I think New Orleans is a much worse offense than Seattle, and that could be more of where Kyle Shanahan wants to try to push the ball a little bit more or push the envelope, especially when they get into the red zone. I think another thing today that happened, I mean, Jake Moody missed a kick. He had another kick blocked by Julian Love. And so you look at that aspect and you say maybe if those 2 kicks actually go San Francisco's way, they're looking at a 23-10 performance instead of, or a 23-13 performance instead of 17-13. And when you look at it from that perspective, you can kind of see where, I mean, San Francisco, even though they were at a point losing this game, they never really had a strong foot up on the Seahawks this game. They ended up kind of squeaking it out. And against New Orleans, you hope that they're better. You hope that offensively they're able to put more points up on the board. But with what they showed today, I wouldn't guarantee it, especially if George Kittle is down next week. We saw that after he went down, this offense really could not get a lot going through the passing game. It only gets tougher for Seattle next week. They go to Pittsburgh, and today Aaron Rodgers looked like prime Aaron Rodgers with 4 touchdown passes against Aaron Glenn and his former team, the New York Jets. I think this could be kind of a trap game for Pittsburgh. This was like their Super Bowl, almost in a sense. I think at least if you're talking about it from Aaron Rodgers' perspective, where he even said after the game he was happy to beat anybody associated with the Jets franchise. And so, but keeping it with the Seahawks conversation, it only is going to get more difficult going to Pittsburgh, going to play a defense that is really well constructed. They have an incredible pass rusher in TJ Watt. They have a apparently really good offense now with Aaron Rodgers. It's just only getting tougher. I already have a video up going over the Las Vegas Raiders and New England Patriots game from earlier today. So if you are a fan of either of those teams, if you just want to listen to what my thoughts are on that game, go ahead and give that a check. So thank you very much.